Welcome to Downshift. My name is Matt, and this is one of the best-selling cars of 2022. And this is the SR VC Turbo, which means it brings the biggest Altima energy yet. And I've actually been pleasantly surprised with this thing this week, but not everything is perfect. So we're going to hit the highlights, the best and the rest, starting with the rest. The first thing we're going to talk about is the fact that this thing is pretty expensive. This thing is almost $37,000, including destination, the $400 for the paint, and about the $350 for the floor mats and trunk mat. And the big power from the VC Turbo does make this Altima one of the most muscular in the segment, but a topped-out Honda Accord Hybrid is only a couple $100 more, and it's more expensive than a Camry Hybrid, and it's about the same as a topped-out V6 Camry XSE, and it's more expensive than any Sonata you can buy. So it's not like it's wildly more expensive than any of these things, but the Accord Touring Hybrid is newer and better overall. The Camry comes with the V6, and the Hyundai, of course, is cheaper with a lot of the same and even more technology. So it's not like it's completely outpriced itself, but it is an expensive proposition in SR VC Turbo trim here. Number two is no hybrid. We just touched on this a little bit, but you can't buy a hybrid Altima at all, which is just kind of strange for 2023. You can buy a hybrid Sonata, a hybrid Camry, a hybrid Accord. The only other competitor that doesn't offer a hybrid in this segment is the Kia K5. That said, even without the hybrid, this Altima gets really impressive fuel economy, which we'll talk about in a minute. And this one may be a little bit of a nitpick, but technically the rear seats are smaller than pretty much all the other competitors. Now that being said, I'm 6'1", and I still have several inches of knee room. It's headroom that becomes the problem, especially with my nub up here. So it's not like it's uninhabitable, but it is technically smaller than kind of all the competitors. But you do have nice things. You have single map pocket, you've got dual vents back here, USB-C, USB-A, and of course you have cup holders. The only places that I'll ding it is the fact that this SR Turbo trim only comes with black interior, and it's nice, but you also only have a standard size panel roof, so it can feel a little bit dark and a little bit cramped back here. Number four is that you don't get all-wheel drive here. This is a bit weird because you can get intelligent all-wheel drive on the other SR trim, but you can't get all-wheel drive with the VC Turbo engine. Weird. And fifth and finally, on the con side or negative side, we're going to talk about some of the small features that are missing here that are present in some of the other competitors. This Altima can't be had with a panoramic roof no matter how much money you spend. You also only have incandescent taillights regardless of money. And this is a small thing, but the key is exactly the same as my G37 from like 2011. You don't have a memory seat option here, you don't have a cooled seat option here, and again, this is the most money that you can spend. And also, only the driver window is automatic up-down. Your 360 cameras are kind of whack, to be honest. They don't take up the full screen, and the resolution is kind of old generation Mazda bad. You don't have ambient lighting here, and you don't have specific drive modes. Again, none of these things are probably make or breaks for you, but they're just small things that I noticed that I thought, oh, well, the Camry had that, or the Sonata had that. But with that being said, there's a lot of great things going on with this Altima, so let's talk about those. Number one, we're going to talk about the engine. This is the party piece of this car right here. This is the only Altima that you can get with the big uber-powered VC Turbo engine. It's a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder with a variable compression for power and efficiency depending on how you're driving. On premium gas, you can get up to 248 horsepower and 273 pound-feet of torque. And you can do 0 to 60 in just under 6 seconds. It's powerful and it's quick, but that doesn't come at the expense of fuel economy like you might believe. We'll talk about that in a minute. Number two, we're going to talk about looks, and I know looks are subjective, but to me, this is the most handsome mid-size sedan that you can buy right now, maybe excluding the K5. Up front, you have V-motion running lights, you have faux fascia intakes, and you have the new Nissan logo in your grille. And of course, you spend that extra $400 to get this beautiful Scarlet Ember tin coat paint. The upgraded 19-inch wheels have an interesting design, and they have SR embossed into the wheel itself. And from the profile, you can see this thing is the same length as a Camry, and you have a chrome window treatment just on the lower part of the door that kind of terminates into a Hofmeister kink in BMW style, and yet it still has the floating roof thing like its big brother, the Maxima. And of course, this SR trim gets black wing mirrors as well. And then around back, we talked about the incandescent taillights, whack, and then of course a bunch of badging on your rear deck lid. You've got dual exhaust and a really aggressive black diffuser. Overall, I think it's really handsome, and you could be too with a new pair of sunglasses from Blenders this summer. Discount code in the description below. And number 4, we're going to talk about the trunk. It is cavernous, and the opening is a nice rectangular shape, so it's really, really practical to get things in and out. And of course, you have these little tabs here that you can pull to make the seats fold 60-40 to make it even bigger. And then, this is a nice trick here. If you lift up this floor, you have an actual temporary spare tire back here, something that's increasingly rare these days. So pretty nice. And number 5, we're going to talk interior. Now, this doesn't feel quite as slapped together as well as something like a Honda Accord, but this is still a great place to sit and spend time, especially with this new upgraded 12.3-inch screen. Like I mentioned before, this SR trim comes exclusively with the black interior, with orange and white accent and contrast stitching. You do get perforated leather here, and your 0G seats are heated but not cooled. And they are very comfortable, but again, no memory function, which is a bit odd. Your steering wheel is heated and it's a flat bottom because this is the sporty SR trim. And of course you get paddle shifters on there to control your synthesized CVT transmission. And on your dash it's rimmed with faux carbon fiber, and you've got physical climate controls to make things really, really easy. Over the course of this week, I had no problems with the interior of this car. Number 6, we're going to talk about the driving experience. Behind the wheel, this thing is actually really, really nice to drive. It's the most powerful and it's the most sporty Altima you can get, but I wouldn't exactly call it a sports sedan. It's only front wheel drive. The steering is pretty light and kind of numb. The damping is fairly soft, but it's not exactly what I would consider sloppy. It's just very, very comfortable. It chooses comfort over sport. And the engine brings plenty of power. That's not a problem here at all. The CVT does fake shifts pretty well, and you do have paddles to pretend even further. However, if you do floor this thing, it's kind of going to abandon the whole synthesized shift thing and just get you as much power as it can give you right away. Your visibility is very good, and the driver assist system on here is actually pretty impressive. It did kind of try to kill me like once or twice, but you know, if you're paying attention at all, which you should be, you'll be fine. So for all those reasons, it feels more like a GT sedan than a sports sedan. Big power, cushy, comfy ride. It's pretty nice. Number 7, we're going to talk technology. Now, despite some of the missing things that I mentioned earlier, you still have a load of nice modern tech features in here. You've got a semi-digital cluster, which is fine. I might think about digital at this price point, but you've got that 12.3-inch upgraded infotainment system like I mentioned. And here on this trim, it has wireless Apple CarPlay, but if you go for the base Altima, you won't get CarPlay at all. Your 360 cameras are kind of whack, but we covered that earlier. And the native system for Nissan is kind of slow and laggy, but again, you're going to use CarPlay 98% of the time anyway. And your autopilot suite works very, very well, although it does prefer the right lane, it seems. It's just easier to read the lane lines on that side. And you've got a wireless charger in your center console. You don't have ambient light, and you don't even have LED map lights, which is kind of strange. But you do have a Bose audio system, which they're pretty subtle about, and it's a pretty decent system. Not perfect, but perfectly acceptable. So that's it. That's the best and the rest of the 2023 Nissan Altima. Again, I finished my week with this car very pleasantly surprised. It's not perfect. There is a couple things missing that other competitors are bringing, but it's incredibly comfortable. It's really powerful while also being very efficient. Like I said, over 40 mpg, and granted that's mostly highway, but still. And yeah, there's some deficiencies with the native tech stack, but you have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto here, so it kind of makes up for some of those deficiencies. So with that, again, I was pleasantly surprised, and I'm very much looking forward to what the future of the Altima is at Nissan. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.